Well, once again, welcome everyone. I see a few familiar faces and some new faces. Karina, welcome. Chelsea, welcome. Rick, welcome. See Eileen, I think, are you new as well? Yes, welcome. Anyone else who's new here this week who I have not? Randy? Yes, wow, okay. And Carrie. Well, welcome, welcome to all of you. We started having these gatherings in March when the pandemic started to give us a way to be together, to cope. And it was it started as a one-off, and I think it was so powerful for all of us that we have continued to meet almost every week since then. I took off some time over the summer. I took off a couple of weeks here, and now we are beginning once again. And today we will be focusing on the soul trait of enthusiasm. The Hebrew is zerazut. It's not, this is actually our second week of enthusiasm. So those of you here last week get like a month of enthusiasm instead of a couple of weeks, which seems kind of fitting. But it's not sort of the rah-rah type enthusiasm. It's really more like alacrity. It's about taking action. It's about having mindful focus for whatever it is that we're choosing to do. I'm going to start us with a slide for some discussion. That's not the slide, but that is. So this is something I read recently in a book called Conscious Community. And so may I have a volunteer to unmute and begin by reading this phrase. And then the way it works is people can unmute and just kind of chime in with their own take on this.
Okay, I'll read. When we begin by purifying our bodies, our mindfulness develops as a natural consequence. Rabbi Kalanimus Kalman Shapira, Conscious Community, A Guide to Inner Work.
Thank you. He was actually a rabbi in the Warsaw Ghetto. He was among the men who were murdered there. He was like an 8th or 9th generation Hasidic rabbi. And this is a real wonderful book about forming a community of people looking for self-elevation. And so what is he talking about here? What is the point that he's making?
I don't know. I don't know what he means by purifying our bodies.
Great question. What might he mean? He was, in this chapter, he was saying this is something that doesn't sort of happen so much anymore. But what might that mean? What does it mean to you? Someone, please jump in.
I think, this feels relevant if we put it in the context, let's just say, of the high holidays. That's what jumps out to me, right? Of like, I think Yom Kippur in one way is like a way we can purify our body. And before the high holidays, like I did a mikvah ritual with some friends in the ocean. That's another like maybe more like formalized Jewish practice, right? Around like body rituals. So that's immediately what comes to my mind. And of course, I think we could sanctify and purify our bodies in like a variety of ways, but those are what jumps out.
Thank you, Chelsea. Yeah, so there's some traditional practices like the mikveh, and the Torah talks about a lot of things that like the priests used to do to purify themselves, or if you were impure, you'd have to do A, B, and C. If we were to use this as kind of a metaphor, maybe not literally doing the mikveh, what maybe comes to mind there?
This is Harry. I guess the thought that comes to mind is a clean slate. That you're starting with a clean slate, so the past does not interfere with the future. And,
Wonderful. And so maybe to connect that, and I think that's a good segue to sort of the second half, because our mindfulness develops as a natural consequence. So is that part of what your thinking was, Harry, is how those relate? Harry, you muted. You're unmute again.
All right, say that again. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah,
Sorry.
I was just, so you were talking about this idea of starting with a clean slate. So is there a way that that might help us develop mindfulness?
Sure. It allows you not to have those, those thoughts and worries that affect your ability to focus on your mind and be clear and
Yeah.
know that you're starting over. As they say, the most important day of your life is today is the beginning of your best day of the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of that focus.
Yeah.
It's a positive approach.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love that word focus too, because there's something, I think when I tend to think, I think part of the reason why this stood out for me is when I tend to think about mindfulness, I think about meditation or sort of mental activities or paying attention. But here it's connecting it to the body. It's sort of making this an embodied practice. And we can sort of get to mindfulness by taking action in a number of different ways. So let's use that as kind of some background. I guess I stopped sharing, but I'm already ready. Does anyone else want to comment on this, or should I take us through?
Yeah, I just wanted to say something,
Yeah,
thinking about it in a more physical way. I feel like a lot of us sleepwalk through most of our lives. We're thinking about the past or planning for the future. We're not really living in the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
Meditation puts you there, but also intense exercise puts you there, or creative endeavors put you there. And to me, that's the main thing of Mussar, trying to catch that Bechira point, being right there in the present moment. And that's kind of why I've been studying Mussar all these years.
Thank you, Gail. Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Exercise, being in the present moment, those are all pretty key things.
Also, fast and diet is often seen as purifying, and we fast on Yom Kippur, of course, and that releases that. I mean, it's supposed to, I know, make us focus, but also the idea is if you fast, it releases certain toxins. I mean, that's really, really loose science. I don't know if there's any science there, whatever, but that's the idea, that it helps purify your body. I'm not a big believer in all these purification diets. I think but I think if you eat healthy food, that's also a purifying of the body. If you just eat good, fresh food and it's a taking care of the machine, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think there are almost as many serotonin receptors in the stomach as there are in the brain, and the largest nerve in the body connects the stomach and the brain. So there is very real ways that what we eat can affect our mind, can affect our mood. And that's a wonderful connection to sort of, again, purification as a way to develop mindfulness. Okay, so where are we going with this? I started us in a much more esoteric way than I often do. For those who are new to the practice, I developed American Mussar so that people with any level of background, Jewish background, Jewish education, could get started. And one of the ways I tried to make it accessible was by creating these 4 assumptions. And each week we go through kind of one of the assumptions in more detail. And the one that I want to focus on this week is that we each have a divine spark, but it's occluded by our baggage. Now, if you're not sure about the divinity, you can think of this as like just that common spark of goodness, that common spark of, humanity that we all share. And it's not something that can ever be taken away. But at the same time, we all have, baggage. We have like hurts and things that have kind of gone wrong along the way, which make it which can block the divine spark. How's this resonating today, kind of with where you are in the world right now?
The divine spark is, we're supposed to look for the divine spark in everyone. And today in my spirituality group, which I facilitate, we read an essay about loving your neighbor, loving your fellow, and especially loving people that are different from you. And we talked about how it's very difficult right now in this time to see this divine spark in people we see as the opposition, our political opposites, and that there's so much difficulty with that right now. And if we were to extend that to everybody, to wish, to wish for it says to wish for your friends all of the wonderful things that you wish for yourself. But if we were to wish for our adversaries those things, how would that change the world? That was part of our discussion today. So that brings up a lot of the idea about seeing the divine spark in ourselves and in even people we really, really do not like and cannot like because they're doing horrible things.
Well,
thank you, Carol. Well, there's a lot of baggage being put in the way of that divine spark right now in the country around the political divisions and social divisions and other things. And yeah, you're absolutely right. That makes it much harder to see and experience that divine spark. What a powerful thought is to try to extend some compassion and goodwill to people with whom we disagree. Oops, I've gone too quickly to hear.
Is it possible that the divine spark has been buried by someone's baggage? And I'm thinking of Trump. That I have a terrible time trying to find anything decent about that man, but I do know that he is damaged goods from his, upbringing and so forth. And it's a lot of what he does and says is it's not possible for him to do anything different because of his mental, what's the word?
Thank you, Carrie. I think I understand the point you're making, and I do want to just caution us that people may have a variety of different political views here, and they're all welcome, and that some people might feel that way about the president, other people might feel that way about the last president or about other politicians, but I think that's a great...
Anybody that you find difficulty finding the divine spark in, it reminds me of the Puff the Magic Dragon story where there's a bully in the story, but the dragon makes a big pup, and then you see that the person's really hurting. The bully is really hurting. So there's goodness there, but it can't come out because of their life, whatever their upbringing or history or experience or whatever, something like that. So
thank you. Thank you, Carrie. I think it's so important to try to, and what I'm hearing is trying to bring some compassion and understanding to the other person's viewpoint, which may not excuse their behaviors, but it can change us and change the way that we view them and the way that we experience them. And I think that's really profound and important. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, so let's see. Can you see this the screen?
Yeah.
So again, I'm not gonna. We talked about this in our last session a little bit, Enthusiasm is energy, alacrity, diligence. It covers beginning tasks and completing tasks. And one thing we spent a lot of time on last time was this idea that it's an ornament to the other traits. You know, it's that showing up in life, you know, with putting in that extra effort is important, and not just to phone things in. So there's one area that I've been thinking about, and that's the way, and this again is part of my journey, which I'm going to inflict upon all of you, but I suspect some of you might be able to relate. It has to do with the Altar of Slovakia, who was Rabbi Nossi Finkel. And he emphasized immaculate dress. He was an Eastern European rabbi. He was one of the disciples of Rabbi Israel Salanter. He founded one of the three major yeshivot that were studying Mussar, and he eventually moved to Palestine under the British Mandate. So this is a picture of him. He started a yeshiva in Hebron, which was, you know, really in the middle of nowhere then. I mean, there were a couple of Arab villages. He starts this yeshiva, and here he is with three of his students. You know, these guys dressed with these hats, and you can see they have little bow ties and jackets. And he really felt it important that they not dress like starving yeshiva students. And because we are, you know, when we dress immaculately, we are honoring the divine within. Now, I don't know about you, but dressing well has not exactly been a priority for me during the pandemic. You know, I put on a nice shirt, you know, whenever we meet because I'm facilitating, but I might be wearing shorts or other things. But also today, I'm like, you know, wearing one of my nice shirts. I'm wearing some nice slacks. I'm even wearing shoes right now. So what might it mean if we were to, you know, put some focus on maybe dressing up a little bit more at home? Is there some value that this could bring to our lives? Or is it just a bother? Oh, Gail, you're related to him? Oh my God, you have to unmute and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, my father's first cousin. It's her grandfather, I guess, and then her son, until he died a few years ago, was the Rosh Yeshiva in Jerusalem, I think, at the Mir Yeshiva. So it kind of has continued. There's a whole sequence of rabbis in the family. And so he's sort of a cousin a few ways removed above me.
Wow. That is very cool.
I have some thoughts.
Yeah.
Sometimes form can, or substance can follow form. And it's not unlike when we were talking about before, about the body being, if we cleanse our body for a certain purpose, there's a mindfulness about it. So again, the idea is if you're thoughtful about what we're doing in the physical plane, then it could maybe follow more likely or has a chance of following in those other realms.
Thank you, Frank. Karina, I see you nodding your head. Would you like to tell us what you're thinking?
Certainly. I was just thinking how much mindfulness has to do with intention, and the Yetzer, you know, whether you've intended to choose the Yetzer Hara, the Yetzer HaTov, you know, which part of that, and in making that conscious choice in your mind with how you present your body, like the Rebbe has said, or how you treat your body, as in the mikvah, or what you eat or abstain from eating, that all draws from the intention And when the intention is in line, then, like that first slide says, the other things follow. The other things follow. So maybe it starts with the physical, because that's the thing most pertinent, you know, what we eat, what we drink, how long we sleep, how do we move our bodies and exercise and mindfulness in that area. And when you start having an intention of making a choice that's for the good, it spills over into your spiritual living.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So what I'm hearing is it's not even about like dressing for the sake of dressing, it's dressing for the sake of the good. It's like, maybe if I do this, this is going to kind of elevate me. Eileen.
I've been under the belief that the holiness will come out, and it's dressing for the sake of dressing differently and being aware of that it's different. Not so much dressing up. If you constantly dress up, dressing up is not unique. If you be aware of the change that you are living through, that's the mindfulness part of it.
Thank you.
I also, like, what comes to mind when I think about like dressing, I think about like this sanctification and like how we like mark time and we mark our bodies. And I think of like the Torah, you know, we go through this whole thing of like, we're going to dress the Torah, like, you know, it's in this beautiful ark, we put crowns on it. And really actually the text is quite beautiful, but it's on parchment. It's actually simplistic if we think about it. And I think on a personal level, when I think about dressing up, when I feel most in alignment with myself, right, in my core and who I am, I can feel the divine. And for me, like, I'm female identifying, but I wear men's clothing. That's what I'm comfortable in. So when I dress how I want, I'm in full alignment with myself, or working to be, right? And then I can maybe have a divine moment. So that's my thought on that.
Right. You know, so what I'm hearing for you is it's almost kind of a way of setting the stage. It's like, hey, you know, I'm going to kind of dress as my authentic self, and that opens up possibilities.
And you dress differently for different things. If I decide to put on my my running shorts and my sneakers, I'm probably more likely to go out for a walk than if I'm wearing my flip-flops and a dress. You know?
Right.
Thank you. Jack, did I see you with your hand up? Or?
Yeah, like, you know, it's funny because before I came onto this thing, I just looked at myself and I saw that I needed a shave. And something said, you know, get a shave before you go on a meeting. Well, because I wanted to, it was something that was internal, you know, it was something that I wanted to, and I was going to, you know, meet people, even though it was virtual, but I just wanted to look good and also feel good about myself. And I've noticed, like, since, you know, during the, you know, the quarantine and all that, it's like I've been buying a lot of shirts, you know, T-shirts that really express, you know, who I am and my values, and that's been important to me. Even more so that I'm, you know, you know, not able to get out as much. And, you know, even like this shirt I have on now, which is like, you know, I don't know if you can see it, but now it's like one of my favorite colors.
Nice.
I find that I need it more, you know, for myself in terms of my own alignment, my own values and who I am and how I want to be in this world.
Well, thank you, Jack. I can relate. You know, I shaved this morning, but I hadn't shaved in 5 or 6 days, and I haven't been sleeping particularly well. And I took a nice shower, I shaved, I dressed up. I have to say, I felt a lot better. I felt a lot more energized and energetic by sort of taking that stage. Randy, you look like you're percolating a little bit. Do you have anything you want to add here?
Well, sure. I was thinking on dressing. I'm looking at Carol's backdrop with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and such an interesting person that has contributed so much. But in dressing, I forgot get the term for the little like neck piece that she wears. And I've heard so much about it, just a small thing in deciding to wear it, and that she donated it. And it's being exhibited and is part of a museum now where it will be remembered forever. Just a small thing can be so significant. And I was also thinking with nature, you know, this time of year we're entering the fall, and how all year we enjoy nature and the trees and all the colors. But the fall is interesting because the leaves change color, and all these colors that were there all the time, all year long, now we get to see them, you know, and all these colors, the reds and orange and all this brilliant color, it was all there, but we didn't have the eyes and the ability to see it. And life is a little bit that way.
Yeah, I love that, Randy. And it's the divine spark's a little bit that way too. It's there all along, but we don't always see it. Wendy had raised her hand. I want to give her a chance, and then Harry.
Hi, yes. I was thinking about when you're getting dressed, when you're getting ready, you're preparing, like Carol said, to do whatever it is you're going to do. And then you get dressed in a certain way for a certain reason, for a certain thing, indicating that you are ready and willing to do the work that you're just about to do. So that when the rabbi was fully dressed immaculately, he was ready then to do what he did, his work that he did. So it's like kind of a sign of being enthused in being in alacrity. If you're, I mean, could you just imagine if he weren't like that and he walks out into public and, well, is the rabbi really ready? And then that doesn't bring everybody else around either. So I think it's important.
Thank you. Harry.
Yeah, I just thought a little bit about connecting it all in a way, starting with the divine spark in us, which leads to the clean body, which leads to the clean shirt, which leads to purity, which leads to holiness. And so that's where I think this sort of leads, if I can put it all together. And I think it's a wonderful connection if you can see that that divine spark, taking it through the clean shirt or clean body to the clean shirt to purity to holiness, which comes back to the divine spark.
Thank you.
Just a thought.
Yeah, well, I must say those were kind of the breadcrumbs I laid out there. So you picked up on them, and that was what excited me about today's, so then the question becomes, well, then what? Here we are, we're purified, we're holy, we're dressed we're ready.
I think that's the preparation for whatever action, just like Justice Ginsburg had her robe, her judge's robe with her neck piece, and she was ready. And just as the rabbi reminded me, what Wendy was saying about the rabbi also reminded me of the high priest in the temple. He had a specific set of clothing that he had to wear to do the services that he did. And I think, like even just wearing the proper shoes to go running, or the proper outfit for if you want to honor the Shabbat or a Yontif by, wearing something nicer, or, I think all those things prepare us and help us to get to that enthusiasm or alacrity. Because if you're still in your pajamas and your slippers, you're not going to go anywhere and do anything. But, if you're dressed for the occasion, then you're ready to go.
Thank you. Well, that's a good segue, because let's all just maybe take a breath and sit up a little straighter in our chair and kind of get ready. And so we're starting to wrap up the holiday of Sukkot. And what is the thing we're supposed to experience on Sukkot?
Joy.
Joy. Not something I've felt as much as I would have liked, but here we are. It's like we are told it is time to exercise our joy muscles. So
We're actually commanded.
The rabbi went to a wonderful meditation by IGS this morning. Lainey, I've seen you there sometimes. I can't remember who was leading, but he's talked about exercising these joy muscles. So let's talk a little bit about Sukkot and joy. So this was a celebration. This was an aspect, this water celebration at the ancient temple. That was actually something which I had not learned about until today. But the idea was there was a big pilgrimage to the temple for Sukkot. And there'd be this all-night party, and there'd be lots of dancing. And then there would be the special ritual of getting water from the spring and pouring the water. So may I have a volunteer to read this first bullet, please?
Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi said, "Do you know why it was called the celebration of the house of drawing water? Because from there they drew divine inspiration." And that's from the Jerusalem Talmud.
Thank you. Thank you, Karina. Okay. So the divine inspiration might mean a lot of different things. To you, again, we may have different ideas about divinity. Maybe that's drawing inspiration from nature or from the purity of the water or from some greater energy or whatever the divine might mean to you. But how might that relate? Is it like this? Does anyone think it's kind of weird to have all of this like dancing and partying kind of being related to divine inspiration, or does it make total sense?
It makes total sense.
How so?
Well, let's see. I'm a dancer, and I taught kids and adults Israeli folk dance for years. And it's kind of how I talk to God.
Thank you, Wendy, for sharing that. So for you, this is a very direct sort of connection. It's a very, very direct way. Wonderful. Who else would like to share?
I have something specific to Sukkot. Because every year I order lulav and Srug. I don't know if everybody knows what that is, but that's like you do this ritual where you shake in 6 directions these plants that smell wonderful and look wonderful. And so I did it like Sunday, and then a friend of mine who was there, I said, should I leave this here? Because I don't know if I'll come back for the morning minyan during the week, like at 7 o'clock. It's not my hour. And my friend said, take it home and you can do it at home. So I took it home, and like all week I didn't do it. And then this morning I said, I'm going to do this today. And there's the songs that you sing with it, the Hallel is songs of praise, and the rock that the builders threw became the cornerstone, and the songs that we sing at Passover also for Hallel, B'tzeit Yisrael Mitzrayim, and how the mountains are skipping. Anyway, so I was doing this ritual, and I felt very joyous, and I was like so happy that I did it, and I had these beautiful things, and I was doing this ritual, and I'm also a dancer by background, and so I very much believe that doing the physical thing, and of course that's what the Hasidim do. They dance, and and there's other traditions also like Sufism, dancing and divine trance, altered states and all this. I'm very much believing it. But I had that experience of doing the ritual for this holiday and felt very joyful about it.
Thank you. Thank you, Joy. That is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that experience with us. You know, sometimes at my synagogue or in services, I do sort of wish we, you know, where I worship was a little bit more like the Hasidim with more, you know, couldn't we just do a flash mob or something? You know, couldn't we just get up and start dancing at some point? You know, it's like, you kind of sit here and stand the whole time, and there is a certain passion and joy and energy that I think we have more of an opportunity to experience.
I'm not a dancer, but I am a singer.
Ah.
And I do believe that a prayer sung is a prayer prayed twice.
Mm.
And so it's an old saying. I have no idea where it comes from, but it really resonates with me a lot. So when I pray in synagogue and it's sung, it's like, yeah, that's really holy to me.
Yeah, I think the music, I mean, that's one of the things that got me into being more observant, just the music of the service and that everything is sung and chanted.
Okay, so we've been thank you both. We've been talking about joy. We've been talking about purification. I have one more quote I'm going to share with you, and then we're going to break up into our groups. Or for those of you who are new, you go into Zoom rooms, and you'll have kind of a confidential space to kind of share and talk about what some of the themes we've been discussing. So I love this quote from Rabbi Dov Bera of Radoshitz. Wake up, my brothers, a guest you've never seen has arrived. Once he leaves, you will never see him again. Who is the guest today? And on the prior slide, you may have seen the famous quote from Rabbi Hillel, if not now, when? So again, here we are, you know, in the midst of a pandemic and political turmoil and economic turmoil, and we are commanded to practice joy. So here's the question I'd like you to talk about with your partner. It's like, do you feel guilty for feeling joy? You know, is it okay? You know, does it invalidate? Does it mean that we're ignoring like the problems or issues that are out there? And maybe what could you do to exercise your joy muscles? And then also just a little bit of a check-in where you are. Now we'll probably only have 5 or 6 minutes, so there won't be time to kind of get to all of this. But if you guys are having a great conversation, please feel free to share email addresses or phone numbers and carry on the conversation. That does happen sometimes. So let me open up the breakout rooms. And this should, now you should see a something on the screen that says join breakout room. So you click that to join. And if you're the only one in the room, just hang out. I will reassign you. Rick, your camera's been off. Are you still with us? Will you be joining your breakout room?
I'm here. I would rather just not be that participatory my first time out.
Okay, you sure?
Please, thank you.
No problem at all. I will reassign Nancy to room number 4. So Rick will be about 5 minutes. Oops. Hey, Janos. Were you alone in your room? Hey, welcome back, everyone. So, without sharing anything confidential that your partner said, I'm wondering what insights you may have had about joy, whether it's okay to feel joy now, and maybe any practices to share so that we can continue to exercise our joy muscles when Sukkot ends.
I think what we were getting to is, what are those things that float your boat, kind of to say, bring you joy, and how to find ways of activating that in your life, and and maybe reaching out to other people who could use hearing from you, or there's so many things we could do to be helpful and not to feel guilty. I don't feel guilty for feeling joy. I feel sorry for people who feel sad and would like to bring joy.
Thank you. Thank you. Eileen.
I just want to tell Nancy that I sent her my telephone number in the chat section for her to look for it. And if she wants to further a conversation. And I don't feel guilty feeling joy. I think by feeling joy, you express joy and it helps other people around you. Sharing that enthusiasm, happiness. Every day I wake up and I say, boy, am I happy I'm not in a hospital or know anyone in a hospital at this moment in time. And that gives me joy because I know how much pain can be felt when those days occur.
Yeah, gratitude for what we have, recognizing the good in our lives is so key. Carol.
And for me, joy is connected to wonder and also gratitude. I was actually thinking that gratitude is a big piece of it. But it's connected to wonder at things that, we take these things for granted. It's like you were saying about the changing of the leaves in fall. That's an amazing thing. It happens every year. No matter what, it happens every year. And the only real time, because, our clocks they're all human inventions. They're all manufactured. The only real time is the time of the earth, the day and the night, the seasons, the moon, the cycles of the moon. That's the only real time.
Absolutely.
So there's something wondrous about that it keeps on going, no matter what we say, no matter what we do, and we as human beings do all these idiot things.
Amen.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing?
It is.
Lainey, we haven't heard from you today. Anything you'd like to add?
Well, I certainly don't feel guilty about being joyful. I think I was sharing with Carol that, I've struggled with a lot of depression in my life. And I kind of subscribe to some of the 12-step things of fake it till you make it kind of thing. And it sometimes can really work. One of the things that I've been doing is I live in a complex that has a swimming pool. And I have been going there religiously every day. And I get out of that pool and I am just flying high. I'm just so invigorated. And then it spills over to other things that I'm doing and other people that I'm with because they notice it. They just say, you look so happy, and my whole energy level changes. So I can't say enough about exercise as a way of getting in touch with enthusiasm.
Thank you. That really ties into very much where we began today with purifying the body, dressing up, taking action, choosing things that we could do. Yes. Anyone else care to share or comment? As we prepare for a very short, so I'm going to share just a couple of actions. We don't always do these, but whoops, that's not it. Just some things to inspire, you know, as we finish this second part of enthusiasm over the next week, to pick one action or activity. You know, we've talked about a lot of things today. Here's some other ones that, you know, would be really good for me. I'm spending far too much time later tonight, not going to bed. But conducting an enthusiasm, inventory, being grateful, sticking with positive people, modeling enthusiasm for others, which, as a couple people brought up, you know, trying to bring joy to other people is another thing to do this. So, in closing, once again, please make a short meditation just to close our circle for the day. So relax in your chair and once again take in a deep breath through the nose and hold. Exhale through the mouth and hold. Tilt your head back and smile. And focus on that light that's filtering through your eyelids. It's the light of your divine spark. It's always with you. It's always on your side. And it's always there to help provide joy and energy. Now a moment of gratitude for the people in our lives and for being alive and for spending this hour together.
I'm glad you're back.
Thank you.
Me too.
It's wonderful to be back, and
Thank you.
I will stay on for a couple of minutes. For those of you who are new, once again, welcome. We meet every Thursday at this time. Please come back and bring your friends. And I'm curious if you wouldn't mind sharing just how you found us today or why you decided to join today, if you would like to share that. And then what did you think of the experience?
Sam Radwine is a friend of mine. He recommended this.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Greg.
You're very welcome. Okay, well, we'll see you next week. All right, bye.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Take care, everybody. Shabbat shalom.